Good morning, church. Thanks again for joining us in our New Testament challenge. We're in the book of Philippians. I love the book of Philippians. I love what it stands for, how to find joy in a less than perfect situation. Remember, Paul's writing this book and he's in house arrest when he's going to stand before Caesar, and thumbs up means he'll be released, thumbs down, he'll be executed. And yet in that situation, he trusts God. In that situation, he has joy. And to me, the book has always been a challenge not to be circumstantially based, that my joy comes from where I am, but instead to know I can find joy in Christ no matter what the situation. In chapter 2, Paul makes a turn and starts talking about the importance of the church and us serving one another. As a matter of fact, he says, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out for your own interest only, but also take care of others. Now, I love that passage. I think it's so relationally important. If you're in a marriage, you want to have a great marriage, you learn to serve one another. If you have a great friendship, it's because you probably serve each other. You're not always giving or even always taking, but there's that giving. If you're in a great work relationship, it's because you've learned to serve others. And I think there's a challenge so many times because if we aren't careful, we look to be served rather than to serve one another. Now, I love this because Paul now brings it into an example. In the Greek, it's called the Kenosis because it talks about when Christ became flesh. So Paul says they are to have the same attitude that Christ had, that though he existed in the form of God, he did not grasp onto that, but he laid it down and became obedient. He became a man, and he humbled himself to the point of death. Here Paul is giving the ultimate example. Is there anyone higher than Christ? And yet Christ, as high as he was, chose humility by limiting his divinity to become a man. Realize when Christ became a man, he did not any degree become less God, but he limited himself. He had to learn, he had to eat, he had to sleep. In other words, he took on humanity so he could become the perfect sacrifice, so our relationship to God could be rebuilt through him. And here's the example. No matter how we're serving others, no matter what degree we have to go to choose to serve, we're never going to lay down what Christ laid down. We're never going to give up what Christ gave up. But if we're willing to serve others, you know what? We can turn the relationship around. In marriage counseling, sometimes we'll say that, you can be right or you can be in a relationship. It's just a way of looking at it and say sometimes we're fighting for our rights. We're wanting to prove our way rather than looking and saying, how can I serve that person? Great relationships start with service. I'm going to encourage you today. Who can you serve? If you're married, what can you do for your spouse today? If you're at a work relationship, what can you do to step in and maybe do that thing other people don't want to do? Be the one that takes out the garbage or fills the paper in the copy machine. What can you do to serve others? We have the greatest example in the world in what Christ did for us, and there's no greater thing we can do than serve one another. You guys have a great day. I hope you can continue as we go to Philippians chapter 3 and our New Testament challenge tomorrow.